This is a queen ant, and our goal is to create a hat completely from scratch so that she can avoid the harsh rays of the sun. But this all began on day one with the simple question: can ants wear hats? Alright, so let's look at our ant hat requirements. First, the ant hat must look like a hat. And number 2, the ant hat must stay on Gmu for at least 15 seconds. After designing our first prototype of the ant hat, I decided to drive a rented car that I got and head to go buy a 3D printer. Look at what we got ourselves, a 3D printer. Yes, sir. And we're gonna test it on our cute test subject named Gmu and Guadalupe. So after bringing the 3D printer back home, I set out on a journey. Not a journey on how to create the best ant hat, but on a journey of how to use a 3D printer. After hours of learning how to use a 3D printer and then figuring out the software, which is a whole nother thing, I started freehanding the design and thinking that my ant hat for Gmu would be done by tomorrow. However, my expectations were not met, and our first prototype ended up with this dinky cone-looking thing that kind of looks like a birthday hat. I figured I could do better, so I began starting prototype number 2. Prototype number 2, I wanted it to look like an actual hat because number 1 does not look like a hat at all. So I tried to find a design online, and luckily I was greeted with this amazing cowboy hat. I put the design into a 3D printing software, and after it printed, that's where my problems really began. I realized that this was way too big of a hat to fit onto an ant. So I began attempt 3. Attempt 3 was actually not good at all because now our hats are becoming abysmally small that I can't even see them. So I came across my first hard question to answer. How in the world am I going to put this onto an ant? So as everyone does, I googled in desperation, and apparently hats can have strings? That's genius. So the game plan now was to put 2 holes in the hat so I could string a string through them, and then we can put it onto the ant's head and then tie it on. So I used these empty cylinders in order to create a hole in the hat, but moving them was a whole nother issue. What the heck, man? Where'd it go? Bruh. After a couple hours, I finally got the 2 cylinders in place and began printing. After printing it, I can see that the 2 holes actually came out pretty well. But I had one big problem. I don't have any string in my house. So I decided to go walk to the campus store, which is a store nearby. Hey, wait, do you have string by chance?
String?
Yeah, string. After all these failed attempts, I kind of ran out of my plastic printing spool at the back of the 3D printer, and I think I inhaled too much of these fumes created from them, and it got to my head a little. Who am I? That's right, I'm Ant-Man.
Get your numbers up. I had to get my numbers up.
So ultimately, I ended up giving up for the day, and while I was dreaming that night on how to make an ant hat, I realized that I'm not an engineer who designs stuff, or I'm not an entomologist who works with ants. I'm honestly a nobody, kind of like a slime. I felt dejected and honestly a little tired. I didn't know what to do. I considered giving up, but then I realized, what if our ancestors gave up when building the first hat? Where would we be? So I went to my next best friend for help, ChatGPT. ChatGPT was honestly a little useless, so I moved on to my next question on the 3D printing subreddit, which was answered with just more questions.
What type of hat? What type of ant?
Ant or ant? You're weird, but I like you.
So I went back to designing with this time in mind on creating a small area that I could apply glue to, and also creating a umbrella-shaped hat. And I found this on Makerspace, a really, really cool umbrella. So I started working with it, but this is where more problems than I had previously started occurring. Things kept breaking. I ended up not getting anywhere, but I kept trying. So I decided to print a stretched out version of the umbrella onto the 3D printer. And I was really excited to be finally done with this project. But of course, when I tried to attach the umbrella to the pole, it just wouldn't go in. So I printed it again, but this time not stretched, and it still wouldn't fit. And I tried again to make the umbrella hole a little bit bigger. Come on, come on. I had a lot of frustration at this point of time. After many failed attempts, I had a genius idea of just printing it as a single object, and it worked. But then I realized I'm creating this for an ant and not for me, so the umbrella was way too big. So I scaled it down, but then I started printing really weirdly. I mean, is this even a pole? It's so flimsy. My next idea was to make the pole wider, and that seemed to work, but since it's so small, God damn it. It broke. So I decided to print it again to see if I can print it without breaking. Please don't break again. Please don't break again. Oh. I got the final print working in the morning and started the process of mounting it onto an ant. However, whenever I tried putting it onto the ant with some glue, she kept moving around so much. And because ants are cold-blooded creatures, I decided to put her in the fridge to slow down her movements. After 5 minutes, I took her out of the fridge to try again, but the glue literally will not stick to her. At this point, I'm defeated. I feel like poop, and honestly, I just want to be like my idol, Ants Canada. On the topic of Ants Canada, he is not my dad. I know we look very similar, and I've actually even met him in person.
Nice to meet you.
I want to collab with him, but honestly, I'm a really tiny content creator compared to him. So let's try to pass Ants Canada in subscribers and help prove that he's not my dad. Thanks. Meanwhile, I'm still stressing about how to put a hat onto an ant, but I don't want to leave you guys with nothing. So here you go.
Wait.
But I'm not gonna give up. Please comment on how I can achieve an ant hat for Gmu in part 2, so